Okay, good evening. It was morning. I did a video, but I wasn't satisfied with it because the camera fell. So I'm going to put another one out. This is all things dealing with an exit strategy, showing you how I exited a narcissistic abusive relationship and sharing with you strategies on how to exit effectively and quietly. And at the same time, have awareness before or as you exit it. So I had left off on after I had informed the brother of what I discovered via Googling it, and he wasn't convinced, or in his opinion, he didn't see this in his sister. I thereby proceeded with my children from his house back to my home. Now, at this point, like I said in the last video, he is aware that I know what she is, specifically, not guessing, just specifically, a nail on the head specifically. Not aware if he knew or the family knows exactly the diagnosis. Most of them are unaware, the narcissist, and the family members as well. But they know something is not well. But they go along with it. So I walk into my house shortly thereafter. Now I know one of two things has happened. He has spoken to her directly about what I know, or he's spoken indirectly, meaning that he basically told her that he came up here talking crazy stuff. I think you need to leave. To which she probably said, I don't know what she said, but anyway, it was a matter of 3 weeks before she actually left. And I think he had to bring himself to basically tell her, the house is on fire, you need to get out of there. So I walk in my house. We proceed for the remaining 3 weeks, give or take approximately, before she actually exited my residence. And in the midst of those 3 weeks, there is a ton of stuff that happened. At this point, now that I'm silent, I'm going 110, 20%. No contact. Not one word did I speak to her. Not one response did I give to her. There was maybe 2 responses to something. And I think it was one of them being if I wanted to go to counseling, she was all for it. To which I replied to her, that won't be necessary. And that was the end of that. And I don't believe she asked me why. And the second one was probably, if I had to guess, asking me something about did I eat or am I hungry or something. Who knows? But we all know that that's all a gimmick. So, excuse me, a little parched. So, for the remainder of the 3 weeks, we began to cohabitate in the house. And I still had my job at this point. This was a regiment. I would wake up. Of course, my children are not staying here anymore. Out of my presence, it would have to be either when I'm home or when I'm off. I never left them in her care after realizing what I was living with. Nor should you. If it's a boyfriend and you don't share those kids in common, get them out of that situation. Even if you remain behind, negate family members to keep those children, because at this point, when you realize what they are and they got a sense that you know who they are and what they are, they can go on to diabolical dismantle you, your children, by ways and means of psychological abuse, physical, and in some cases, this is hard for me to say, but I don't mind saying it, they go on to either dilute your drink or your food, thereby causing you to be ill, thereby causing you to need them. Make perfect sense, right? So, I haven't heard many cases on here, people talking about that, but we should. Maybe people would exit sooner rather than later, because we can't bring ourselves to think of how bad they are. We think of them as humans still, but they're humans in a demonic trance, if I can be short about it. They're demonically possessed. They're demonically controlled. They're not even aware of what they're what's living among them and what the force. They don't have any idea how great the force is living in them. That's why they don't have brakes on their car. When they go in on you, they go in. There's no sense of repercussion. There's no sense of consciousness. There's no sense of regret, remorse. It is survival of the fittest. So take your kids out of that situation. Anyway, I would go to work. This is the regiment. Go to work. We'll wake up in the morning. She would wake up in the morning at her makeup chair for an hour, literally, dolling her face up. Reminds me of that movie, Esther. If you've never seen that, she's dolling herself up to the nine. Makeup is not a makeup out of place. Very accurate at making up themselves every day. And she would get up, go to work, get dressed, go to work, not a word out of my mouth. Mind you, me, I would put a blanket, roll the blanket up, and it would be between the bed and I. It would be like a separation. That was the boundary I was making, because I had no intention of rubbing up against this individual. And you might say you slept in the same bed with them. Well, this seeks to agitate them, because if you're silent and laying in the bed with them, it's just as uneasy for them than it is for you. You could probably tolerate it, which I could, because I knew that I had a destiny. I knew I had a plan in action, and I knew that this plan would very much so work. So the blanket would separate us. Thereby, I didn't make any physical contact with her. It was basically showing her in silence that this is the line in the sand. There is a divide between us now. And every morning she would go to work. I would do whatever the necessary things I had to do here. And then I would go on to get ready for work. Actually, she was only working part-time. They only work part-time, most of these monsters. They don't need a full-time job. Some of them may have a full-time job. But if you get the sloths, the really... the lazy ones, they find part-time jobs, because their full-time job is using people, manipulate, running around, rolling around in the sack. So that takes a lot of their energy. So the part-time job just seeks for them to have an excuse to leave the house for extended amount of time. To which, if you was to call that job, or even go by that job, you would probably discover some things sooner rather than later. But who does that? Nobody goes to their significant others or their mate's job. That's stalking. There's no need for that. They don't even give you an indication that there's a reason to do this. You give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going where they're supposed to go. So you become very leery of certain things happening in a relationship. But even then, I think we don't go there. We don't go to that. We don't go to that extent, because we're in a fog. They're doing so much hocus pocus till we can't make heads or tail. Nor are you even interested in trying to spend the energy to do these things, because you're so exhausted and don't know why you're exhausted in the first place, because they've maximized everything about you. So because you're doing all these things for them nonchalantly, not knowing it. So I went to work. She would come home at about, sometimes she began to be late. At the end of this relationship, she became very, very inconsistent about coming home. It would be a text prior to me finding out about what she was. At this point, I wouldn't even get in texts when I became silent. So I think this gave her valid reasons to stay gone and be gone. And there were some days where she would come home, and I think she needed to come home just in hopes that she would get some kind of heads or tails of what I was thinking or what my plans are, because they're very uneasy all the time once they know that you know or think you know. So she would come home about, she'd go to work at 8 or 9, get off at 1 o'clock. So roughly 1:30, 2 o'clock, she'd get home. I was supposed to be to work at about 3, so that was perfect. She's in the door and I'm out the door. That took the pressure off of her. So I go to work, come home, and at night, when I come home every night, from the time I discovered what she was, this is what was happening every single night until she finally left my house. I would walk in my bedroom at night. She would be passed out, sleeping, snoring like a freight train, exhausted. God only knows all the stuff she had done to exhaust herself. I don't even want to know. Probably sleepless nights too, sleep catching up on them. So the thing is, I would walk in my bedroom, and that blanket that I would put in the center of the bed, she had specifically rearranged it, I guess, and put it in the center of the bed too. They always got to outdo what you do. Like it was her idea. And additionally, on my pillow at the head of the bed, where I lay my head, my Bible would be opened. I never really realized what page it was open to, but it would be just open. I'm thinking, and God forbid she read the Bible. She would have it open, laying open like this on my pillow. Now I realized that was one thing about that she did that for. She was in hopes that I would actually, the word I'm looking for, learn the error of my ways, get into my Bible, repent of God, and change my ways, and begin to apologize to her, all of this other stuff. So that was diabolical. Even at the end, they were trying to hold on for dear life. They're still manipulating. Instead of coming to a point of saying, wow, I just need to leave. It's too late. He knows. But that's not an option because they got to understand she has a new supply. She hasn't groomed him adequately, and it's not time yet. The cake is not done. So all of this throws a damper on their plans. So the Bible would be open to a page to which I would come in and basically slam it like that and put it on the side of the nightstand. Sometimes I wouldn't slam it. I would just close it and just throw it up on the thing nonchalantly, giving her the illusion that, it ticked me off. And that didn't tick me off. I was pretty much annoyed with the fact that every night I came home, she was still here. So, just a light disgust, throwing the Bible over there. To which they never woke up. So, that would be what was happening for 3 weeks. Until one day, as I said, about 3 weeks into it, the last 3 days before she left, I began to not come home. Just got sick of the fact that I got to come home to this idiot of a monster, demonic meat soup, as someone said here. And that's not to tear anybody down. This is what they are. Humanity is a beautiful thing, but once humanity becomes very demonic and distorted, that is what it is. It is what it is. So take that how you wanna, but you got to get this information. You have to get this insight. You have to get this open-mindedness of understanding that this is what it is. A lot of believers, Christian people who have a fear of God or a reverence of God, they distort their human intellect drastically and use the word of God to excuse away why they don't want to see things for what they are. Go in the Bible, there were many people that were after, people who were God-fearing, law-abiding, moralistic people. I'll give you an example, David. You know the story. If you don't, go read it. When Saul became vexed with demonic spirit, which I believe in essence a lot of narcissistic personality disorder becomes apparent in him, just on his behavior. He began to hate David for all the good that was in David, because God had removed his goodness from him, his favor, if you will. He was mad. He was a sore, sourpuss. And he began to pursue David vehemently to destroy him, literally to kill him. And so this is how a narcissist pursues you. In many cases, they are relentless. They are not going to be done until you're done. So how do you combat that? You get on these YouTube channels and you start listening to these videos. You start shutting out the rationale. Shut it down. You gave hard. You did your part. Shut it down. You pretty much got to act as though you didn't give anything to that relationship to begin with. Act as though this is a total stranger that comes knocking at your door in the middle of the night asking you if they could sleep over. That's kind of how you have to look at these people in order to get you some healing. And then once you get healing, you can go back then and gradually look at these videos that you can't tolerate or stomach otherwise, and begin to soak up what people are saying here, because we know, we've seen it, we've done it, we've been through it. And my abuse at the hands of this girl was minimal, but at the same time, I went away from this channel for a long time because I still felt like I need to be educated, and I'm still educating myself every day. But the insight that I have, I began to have now, I think that there's a passion in me to do this, because I feel like even though I haven't been affected as much as a lot of people on here, I still have time to be have severe abuse inflicted on me by way of these people out there, because they're in all aspects of our life, workplace, faith arenas, schools, churches, doctors' offices, jobs, you name it. Friends, family, colleges. Our society is perpetuating narcissistic abuse, disorder. It's teaching and it's grooming our children and the society coming up to care less. As long as you can get by and go through the motions, as long as you're a good actor, you're good. And TikTok and these type of things, they're beautiful in many ways, but some people just don't deserve a camera. They put a phone in everybody's hand. Is accessible. I don't think it's like a gun. Somebody should do background checks on some people before they can get a phone. But that's just me. I'm rambling, but the thing is, I think I'm coming from an intensity of just seeing some things as I talk about this, because that's where that's where I lose the context. But everything I'm saying, I believe, is very pertinent to understanding that you can't play around with this. You don't have to panic, but you cannot play around with this individual. From all the things that I know, this is the most dangerous person on planet Earth. And so, I also research a lot of the people who are, taking lives of their family members, their children, and whatnot. Chris Watts, let's take him for example. We can go on and on and on. This is the stuff I study. And that's why I'm not normalizing the things that I see people do in society. Well, I'll tell you something that they would do. A narcissist. Quick fun fact. This is how you would know that they are one instantly. Say you come to them and you say something happened to you very, very bad. Let's say you lose a loved one and you mention, hey, a relative of mine passed away last night in their sleep. To that, they would reply, and this is not always the reply, but it'll be something to this effect. They may utter, that's sad, if they even utter that, but they would say in quick succession, that's sad. You want to go get something to eat? Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go to Hardee's. Let's go Hardee's. That's a down south burger place. Let's go to KFC. Let's go get some Taco Bell. Let's go for a ride. They don't capture the moment of grief that you're in. That's how unconcerned they are about what you feel. They lack emotional empathy. And that's a quick way to discover that you may, in fact, be dealing with one. And so don't feed the animals. That sign there is at the zoo for a reason. Oh, I'm just going to get a silverback gorilla little peanut. It's only a little peanut. Here, buddy. Put it through the gate, thinking he's just going to grab it like a human being because he has hands like a human being. All of a sudden, silverback reaches through the thing and grabs your arm and... Oh, man. They call you one-arm machismo. At about 21 minutes right now. We're at 21 minutes. I don't even know where I want to go with this anyway. The Bible was open, night closed, and I would lay down and go to sleep. I would sleep very, very peaceful. I didn't stay up awake, rambling in my mind, when is she going to leave? Because again, I became so subtle in my spirit. And I thank God for that, because it didn't have to happen that way. It was a sigh of relief once I discovered both what I was dealing with, and I adopted an instant strategy. And it's kind of the way I'm wired, but I take from like the movie I told you about, Law Abiding Citizen. It's just all about being a deep thinker, which empaths, we're very critical thinkers. So even in good times, we're good thinkers. So even more so in bad times. We already have strategized. Pretty much, we've formulated some kind of idea on the fly of what we need to do or what we think we should do based on the situation. Great problem solvers. A lot of empaths. They'll make decisions. They'll make a lot of decisions, and we make a lot of mistakes because we make a lot of decisions. I tell people, if you don't make a lot of mistakes, you're probably not making a lot of decisions. Generally, people who make a ton of mistakes, they make a humongous amount of decisions. You know, and their thinking pattern is just built in that way. So I would wake up every morning. She'd be at the makeup table, and this is something beginning to happen. I'll talk about this maybe a little more with regards to what she would do with regards to her son before he would go to school. She began to get up. Never did this before, but because she didn't have anything to combat, anyone to confront, anyone to have a confusion and conflict with, she would wake up purposely when she would hear her autistic kid outside the door of the bedroom, and she would go out and sit there deliberately. And everything he did, walked around. Did you get your shoes? Did you do this? Did you do that? Seemingly like a good mom, but it was more like a dictator, the control. And he would be annoying. She would be trying to gaslight him before this kid goes to school. And so she went on to adopt this thing where she would tell him to recite something, Bible verses on a piece of paper, as though I will respect my mom, God, I love you, blah, blah, blah. All things pertinent to the Bible and respect, loving his mom. To which he was like, I'm not saying this or I'm not saying that. You're not going to school then. You're going to miss the bus. You're not getting your phone back. All of these things, these hoops, she would have him jumping through. And I believe she went on to do that, and she upped the ante and she increased the pressure on him in the morning because she knew that that was something I detested, the way that she would go in on this kid. I didn't know before narcissist disorder discovery that she had an obsession with causing this boy unneeded distress. But, after knowing this, I had to resist intervening, obviously, because, I'm no contact. She was essentially using this kid to have me speak to the matter. This is at 25 minutes, so I'm going to stop this video, and maybe I'll pick back up on that. Maybe I'll go from that a little bit into what progressively happened leading up to her exiting Until then, bless.